Mika Häkkinen causing some mirth by giving his reply and finish this time. And basically he'd like to say he'd like to thank all the team, the engineers, mechanics who put together such a strong performance today. It was a real total team effort. And he says well done also to Michael and Damon. He said couldn't quite live with them, but nevertheless pretty happy with their result.
So I slowed down because I thought, well, if I have a problem, I don't want to be told to come in and then crash the car. So I slowed down, which, you know, having then gone back out again, it lost me more time by slowing down. But in that situation, the team's only going to do it if they have a worry. And, you know, they can see the whole picture. I can only see the view from the front of the car.
Well, Flavio Briatore saying winning is not a new thing for us. He said it is becoming a fairly normal experience. And he said we saw this morning from the morning warm-up the performance of the car then when Michael was fastest, that the car was very, very good indeed. And we had no technical problems throughout the race. Jos Verstappen drove an excellent race as well. And that was what we were hoping for. Perhaps he had a few problems in the beginning of the race, but certainly driving very well towards the end itself. He says, well, today I don't really want to talk about the possibility of disqualifications after the events of Silverstone, but I don't think that we will be seeing Michael Schumacher driving at Monza.
Noi siamo a Monza, saremo a Monza senza Schumacher, però a Monza ci siamo sicuramente.
I would like to explain the whole race, but it would take far too long time because the race was long and difficult. But I had a good start, clear start, didn't have much trouble out there. I have a little technical problem with the car, which was stopping me going faster what I did. Otherwise, fantastic race, good racing with the other drivers, and otherwise it was really nice.
Yeah, the first corner was not too hard.
No. Not too hard.
No, you push.
Yeah, I tell you, it's what happened in Germany was something what I don't really want to anymore talk about it. And now we can smile a little bit about it, but at the end of the day, you always have to be careful, even not only for guys who is in front of you, but also who's behind you.
Jean-Pierre Jabouille saying, as you know, there are always a lot of rumours in Formula One. This referring to the fact that people talking about a tie-up between McLaren and Ford. He says regarding the relationship between Peugeot and McLaren, all I can say is that it's getting better and better. Well, Zanjor, #2 man at Peugeot, saying a victory, yes, and a podium at that as well. So very happy. It is true that it's important for us in the second half of this Grand Prix season to get onto the rostrum, especially here at a track that is considered to be fast, where the engines can express themselves to their best. So we asked if there are any problems between Peugeot and McLaren. He said, I don't think there have been any problems between our two companies. The two companies are very professional. Both companies are very, very demanding, and it's normal that we should push each other. We've proved today that the cars are running well, and the second car was also very competitive. Well, we asked what happened to the second car, and Martin Brundle, well, he was running in a very good fourth place at one stage, but he spun up at Les Combes. There was no technical problems with the car, but Martin Brundle just pushing a little bit too hard. He says this fourth rostrum of the season is very, very good, and certainly better than originally anticipated.
C'est beaucoup plus que nous n'espérions au départ.
Donc vous voyez la fin de la saison d'une manière un petit peu plus optimiste.
So we asked does he look at the rest of the season in a more optimistic way, and he said I think so. Our objective is to finish the season well, because our objective for 1995 is to be at the front. With this unknown, everyone will be starting off with a new engine next year, and our engine will be, we hope, up to expectations.
J'espère que le nôtre sera à la hauteur.
But that, of course, was not the end of the story, because at 8:20 on the evening of the Belgian Grand Prix came the news that Michael Schumacher had been disqualified from the race. No 8th victory on this occasion, and Damon Hill inheriting the victory. The reason all down to the wooden plank that lies underneath the car with the stepped flat bottom. A 1 centimetre thick piece of wood that runs front to rear, and it has to measure that 10 millimetres within a millimetre by the end of the race. Well, they discovered that it didn't measure up to the required standard, and although the Benetton team claimed that a lot of that was down to this spin over the curb, when we take another look at that spin over the curb in slow motion, let's just see here, as we freeze the car, you can see just a bit of daylight between the car and the curb, and the car really not quite fully on the curb when it spun. And while it was down to 7.4 millimetres in some places, just too thin for the organisers to allow, and Schumacher thrown out of the race. But that was not all the end of the Schumacher story this week, of course. Yesterday, he turned up in Paris to have his appeal heard in front of the FIA for that disqualification from 2 races after ignoring the black flag at Silverstone earlier in the year. The FIA releasing the press release that said indeed he would be banned from Estoril and Monza. Well, we asked, is it a good decision? And after a little pause, Michael Schumacher saying they looked through all the facts and they have confirmed the decision of a 2-race ban. He says, I have to accept that. So Michael Schumacher now with a 2-race ban, and the results of the Belgian Grand Prix then, as you can see, with Gianni Morbidelli finally getting the extra point, David Coulthard moving up into 4th. In the championship it makes a big difference as well. Michael Schumacher now with just a 21-point lead with 2 races that he can't compete in. If Damon Hill wins both of those, the difference between them will be just 1 point. The fact that Nigel Mansell will be returning for the last 3 races could make a difference as well. So we asked him, what's he going to do next? And he says, well, basically I've just got to think about the whole situation, and it's just got to all sink in, and we'll take it from there. Well, next Monday there's an appeal for that disqualification from Spa, and then on the 7th as well there's another appeal for the problems at Hockenheim, the fire that was caused at Hockenheim. The inquiry will report from that. So it's all still happening in the world of Formula 1. Make sure you keep up to date with it here on Eurosport. We'll bring you all the races live and all the news as it happens. From Ben Edwards, goodbye. Point lead over Damon Hill, and if Hill can...
At Hockenheim, Trouble Benetton team, of course, facing sanctions after Schumacher was withdrawn, his win annulled at Spa-Francorchamps after the skid block underneath his car was found to be too thin, and indeed Benetton have to go before the FIA in Paris to face charges relating to that fireball incident. They tampered, it seems, with a fuel line. Damon Hill, as we saw, also here, doing his best to take the title in Italy and Portugal in the absence of Schumacher. He's hoping for a win. That would put him just 1 point difference between himself and the great German. McLaren also testing there. Ron Dennis denying that he signed Rubens Barrichello from Jordan. Press reports had indicated he'd done just that. Hill battling to keep control in the wet conditions, off into the gravel. Always gives it his all, doesn't it? No more news yet from Williams as to a contract for Mansell next season. He's definitely riding with them, though, for the last 3 races of this one. Well, Johnny Herbert, competitive driver in a very slow car for this year. Lotus saying they're definitely not for sale. The press on their backs as well. Hill, meantime, into slicks, showing his class. A busy time.
Lotus-tallin johtaja Peter Collins vakuuttaa Belgian Grand Prix-kilpailun yhteydessä julkaisemassaan tiedotteessa, että Lotus-tallista ei ole tehty ostotarjousta. Italiassa ja Englannissa liikkuneiden tietojen mukaan McLaren-talli ja Benettonin tekninen johtaja Tom